The Silent Test. The afternoon sun filtered through the tall windows of the Ashford estate, casting golden rectangles across the mahogany floors. In the grand study, Alexander Ashford lay perfectly still on the leather sofa, his breathing slow and measured. To anyone watching, he appeared to be sleeping peacefully after a long morning of business calls. But Alexander was not asleep. His eyes were closed, yes, but beneath his calm exterior, his mind was alert. He had positioned himself this way deliberately, curious to observe what would happen when he seemed unaware. In the 6 months since Emma had started working as his housekeeper, he had noticed something unusual about the young woman. She was different from the others who had come before her. Emma moved through the house like a whisper. She never asked for anything beyond her modest salary. She never gossiped with the other staff or lingered in rooms, hoping to catch his attention. In fact, she seemed to actively avoid him, her cheeks coloring pink whenever they crossed paths in the hallways. Alexander found this both puzzling and intriguing. The door to the study opened with the softest click. He heard Emma's light footsteps enter the room, then pause. He could sense her standing there, likely debating whether to clean now or return later. His secretary had mentioned that Emma always waited until rooms were empty before she worked, taking extra shifts in the early mornings and late evenings to avoid disturbing anyone. After a long moment, her footsteps resumed, quieter than before. Alexander remained motionless, committing himself to this unusual experiment. What did people do when they thought no one was watching? What did Emma do? He heard the gentle sound of papers being organized on his desk. Emma had a remarkable talent for tidying without disturbing the essential order of things. Unlike previous housekeepers who had rearranged his papers into neat but useless stacks, Emma somehow understood which documents he was actively using and which could be filed away. The soft whisper of a cloth over wood told him she was dusting the bookshelves now. He heard her pause, and he imagined her looking at the titles. He had noticed before that certain books would be returned to the shelves at slightly different angles, as if someone had pulled them out to examine them more closely. Then, something unexpected happened. Emma's footsteps approached the small table near the sofa where he lay. Alexander heard a sound he could not quite identify, a gentle rustling, like paper being unfolded. Then Emma's voice, barely above a whisper, reached his ears. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Ashford." Alexander's pulse quickened, though he kept his breathing steady. What was she apologizing for? "I didn't mean to break the frame," Emma continued softly, her voice trembling slightly. "It was an accident when I was dusting yesterday. I tried to glue it back together, but the crack is still visible. I know it was your mother's frame, the one with the silver edges. I've been saving money to replace it, but the antique shop said frames like that are very expensive." Alexander heard the crinkle of bills being set down on the table. "This is everything I've saved so far," Emma said. "It's not enough yet, but I'll keep saving. I work some evenings at the diner on Maple Street. I'll take extra shifts. I promise I'll pay for a replacement even if it takes me months. I wanted you to know I'm going to make this right. I'm so sorry." Alexander's chest tightened. The frame she was talking about. He had noticed it was cracked, but he had assumed it had simply deteriorated with age. It was not particularly valuable, though it did hold one of the last photographs of his mother. He had never considered that Emma might have accidentally damaged it, much less that she would sacrifice her earnings to replace it. He heard her footsteps retreat toward the door, then pause. "I hope you're sleeping well," Emma added, her voice so quiet he almost missed it. "You work too hard, Mr. Ashford. Sometimes I worry that you'll make yourself sick. The staff mentioned you haven't taken a vacation in 3 years. Even people who seem strong need rest." The door closed softly behind her. Alexander lay still for several more minutes, his mind racing. Slowly, he opened his eyes and sat up, looking at the small table beside him. There, next to the cracked silver frame, was a neat stack of bills held together with a paperclip. He counted it quickly, $237. Beside the money was a small note in careful handwriting with the name and address of an antique shop. along with a quote for a replacement frame, $850. He picked up the photograph in the damaged frame, looking at his mother's smiling face. She had always told him that character was revealed not in grand gestures, but in quiet moments when people thought no one was watching. Emma could have simply hidden the broken frame and said nothing. She could have blamed it on someone else. Instead, she was sacrificing her hard-earned money, working extra shifts at a diner to pay for her mistake. And she had done it all in silence, never asking for understanding or mercy. Alexander stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the manicured gardens. How many people in his life would have shown such integrity? How many of his business associates, his investors, even some of his friends would have chosen honesty over convenience? He thought about Emma's words about him working too hard. When was the last time anyone had expressed genuine concern for his well-being? Not his health as it related to his productivity, but simply him. Making a decision, Alexander left the study and found his head of household staff. "Mrs. Chen, I need you to arrange something for me," he said. The next morning, Emma arrived at the estate at her usual early hour. Mrs. Chen met her at the staff entrance, looking unusually cheerful. "Emma, dear, Mr. Ashford would like to see you in his study." Emma's face went pale. "Oh no, he found the money. I knew I should have waited and given it to him directly with more saved up." "Just go," Mrs. Chen said gently, giving her an encouraging pat on the shoulder. Emma walked slowly to the study, her heart pounding. She knocked softly and heard Mr. Ashford's voice inviting her in. He was sitting at his desk, and he looked up as she entered. His expression was not angry, as she had feared, but thoughtful. "Emma," he said, "please, sit down." She perched nervously on the edge of the chair across from him. Alexander picked up the stack of bills from his desk and held it out to her. "I'm returning this to you, but Mr. Ashford, I broke an old frame that was already fragile," he interrupted gently. "It was an accident, and the frame itself has little monetary value. The photograph is what matters, and that's perfectly safe." He paused. "However, your honesty and your willingness to make amends tell me something important about who you are." Emma looked down at her hands. Her cheeks flushed. "I'm increasing your salary," Alexander continued, "and I'm offering you a new position, if you're interested. I need someone I can trust to help manage my household affairs and eventually assist with some of my charitable foundation work. Someone with integrity, attention to detail, and genuine kindness." Emma's eyes widened. "Mr. Ashford, I don't have any formal training for that kind of work, but you have something more valuable," he said. "You have character. The rest can be learned." He stood up and walked around the desk, his expression softening. "And Emma, thank you for worrying about whether I'm working too hard. You're right, I haven't taken a vacation in 3 years. I'm going to change that. Perhaps you can help me remember that even people who run companies are still human." Emma looked up at him, and for the first time since she had started working at the estate, she smiled fully. It transformed her entire face. "I'd be honored, Mr. Ashford," Alexander smiled back. "Please call me Alexander. We're going to be working closely together." As the morning sun continued to stream through the windows, Alexander realized that his little test had revealed far more than he had expected. He had been looking for honesty, and he had found it. But he had also found something he hadn't known he was missing. Someone who saw him not as a wealthy CEO to be impressed or intimidated by, but simply as a person who deserved care and concern. Sometimes, he thought, the most important discoveries happen in the quietest moments, when we finally stop pretending to sleep and open our eyes to what has been there all along.